You know why you're here?
I was just playing my trumpet on the street. The other person started the argument.
That's not our report. We review the facts.
I would like to explain what happened.
The grainy footage from a tourist's smartphone captured it all back in 2019, right there on the bustling corner of Bourbon Street in New Orleans, Louisiana. You see the old man, Otis, Pops, Lavo, a 63-year-old black jazz trumpeter with weathered hands clutching his battered horn, belting out a soulful rendition of When the Saints Go Marching In. The neon lights flickered overhead, the air thick with the scent of spilled beer and jambalaya from nearby vendors. Tourists swayed laughing, tossing coins into his open case. But then, a burly white guy in a Hawaiian shirt stumbles into frame, red-faced and slurring. "Go back to your corner, boy! This ain't your music!" He bellows, spit flying. Pops lowers his trumpet, his eyes narrowing under the brim of his faded fedora. "Sir, I'm just playing for tips." "Move along now," he says, voice steady but edged with years of holding back. The tourist lunges closer, jabbing a finger. "You people ruin everything." The crowd murmurs some backing away. Pop stands his ground, heart pounding like a drum solo. What happens next? The cops roll up, sirens blaring, and instead of diffusing, they zero in on Pops. Handcuffs click, and he's shoved into the patrol car while the tourist smirks. But that's just the start. Why did they arrest him? And what unfolded in that station house would shatter a man's life forever. Pops had always been a fixture in the Big Easy, his trumpet echoing through the French Quarter like a call to the ancestors. Born in 1956 in a shotgun shack in the 9th Ward, Otis Lavo grew up amid the rhythms of jazz legends like Louis Armstrong, whom he idolized. His skin was the deep mahogany of generations rooted in Louisiana soil, his frame wary from years of hard living. By 18, he enlisted in the army, shipping out to Vietnam where the jungles hummed with danger. Gunfire cracked like thunder, the metallic tang of blood and mud forever etched in his senses. He came home in 75 with a purple heart, nightmares that woke him sweating, and a determination to make music his salvation. Back in New Orleans, he joined bands, touring dives from Memphis to Mobile, his lips buzzing against the mouthpiece, channeling pain into melody. But life threw curveballs. In the 90s, a factory job at a shipyard kept the bills paid after gigs dried up. But Hurricane Katrina in 2005 washed it all away. His home flooded, instruments ruined, dignity stripped. He rebuilt piece by piece, marrying his high school sweetheart, Ida, and raising 2 sons who now had families of their own. By 2019, retired and scraping by on a meager pension, Pops bust on Bourbon Street, his calloused fingers dancing over valves, each note a defiance against a system that chewed up black veterans like him. The tourist that night, a loudmouth from out of state, fueled by booze and buried prejudices. Pops felt the familiar boil in his gut, the same rage from NAM ambushes, from post-storm evictions, from watching friends profiled and forgotten. He didn't swing first, he never did. But as the cuffs tightened, he wondered if this was the breaking point. Little did he know, the real horror waited at the precinct. Why did a simple street performance turn into a nightmare? Pops had seen racism's ugly face before, whispers in the army barracks, denied loans after the flood. That night, the tourist's words sliced deep, echoing slurs from his youth. "Boy," the man sneered, a word loaded like a grenade. Pops's mind flashed to 68 in Sagan, dodging bullets while white officers barked orders. Back home, it was the same tune overlooked for promotions, his service medal gathering dust. He thought of his sons, warning them about driving while black, the invisible chains that bound even in the land of the free. The pressure built like a storm over the Bayo, lost jobs, mounting medical bills from old war wounds, the ache of seeing his community gentrified, jazz spots turned into tourist traps. He played louder that evening, notes piercing the humid air, a silent protest. But when the tourist escalated, grabbing at his trumpet case, Pops's temper flared. "Back off!" he growled, shoving the man's hand away. Self-defense, pure and simple. Yet in that split second, sirens wailed, blue lights flashing off wrought iron balconies. The arriving officers, 2 white patrolmen named Officer Harlan Sykes and his partner, Derek Voss, assessed the scene. Sykes, a burly vet himself, but from a different era, eyed Pops with suspicion. "Causing trouble, old-timer?" he muttered. Pops explained, voice calm, but inside, fury raged. Why him? Always him. As they cuffed him, ignoring the tourist's sway, Pop sensed the trap closing. What would they do next, away from prying eyes? The body cam footage from Officer Sykes crackled to life in later reviews, showing the chaos unfolding step by step. Pops sat in the back of the cruiser, wrists biting into metal, the stench of vinyl and stale coffee overwhelming. "This is a mistake," he protested, his breath ragged. Sykes glanced in the rearview, smirking to Voss. "Disorderly conduct resisting, you know the drill." At the precinct, a dimly lit bullpen buzzing with radios and shouts, they hauled Pops into an interrogation room. The camera caught at Sykes and Voss both in frame, their badges glinting under fluorescent lights. "Sit down," Sykes barked, shoving Pops into a chair. Pops winced, his bad knee from Nam protesting. "I ain't done nothing." The tourist's video, uploaded later, since with this, showing Pops pleading as Sykes loomed. Then off came the gloves. Voss held Pops' shoulders while Sykes swung his baton low, cracking against shins. Thwack! Pain exploded like fireworks, Pops' gritting teeth, sweat beading on his forehead. "Teach you to mouth off," Sykes hissed. Another blow to the thighs. Pops gasped, visions of jungle beatings blurring with now. "Please, stop." The room spun, echoes of commands in Vietnamese mixing with English taunts. Why only him? The tourist walked free, but Pops curled in agony, each strike a betrayal of the badge. As they dragged him to a cell, blood trickling down his legs, the camera rolled on. But would anyone see it? The immediate aftermath hit like a Category 5 hurricane. Pops lay in that cell for hours, legs throbbing, unable to stand without waves of nausea. Ida got the call at dawn, her voice cracking over the phone. "Otis, what happened?" By morning, released on bail, he hobbled home, trumpet case forgotten on the street. Doctors at Charity Hospital diagnosed fractures in both tibias, nerves damaged beyond quick repair. "You'll need therapy, but at your age." The doc trailed off. Pop stared at the ceiling, rage simmering. His sons rushed over, Jamal fuming. "This system's rigged, Dad." The community whispered. Another black man broken by blue. Bourbon Street felt emptier without his horn. The tourist bragged online, video going viral with hashtags like Face Street Justice. But for Pops, sleep evaded, flashbacks merging war horrors with precinct pain. How could protectors become predators? His pension barely covered meds, gigs canceled. Ida held him as he wept, dignity shattered. Yet whispers of outrage grew, activists sharing the clip, demanding answers. Would the truth surface or bury another veteran? The investigation kicked off slow, like a dirge in a funeral march. No OPD internal affairs dragged their feet, but the viral video forced action. Detectives reviewed body cams, seeing Sykes and Voss clearly in frame, batons swinging. "Excessive force?" one whispered. Pops gave statements from his wheelchair, voice trembling but resolute. "They targeted me 'cause I'm black, a vet who knows his rights." Flashbacks hit NAM patrols where bias cost lives. Revelations piled up. Sykes had prior complaints, Voss a history of rough arrests in black neighborhoods. A twist the tourist revealed as a repeat offender from Texas, admitted egging it on but claimed Pops, aggressed first. Lies unraveled via timestamps. Community leaders rallied, protests swelling outside the precinct, signs reading, "Justice for Pops." Ida uncovered old letters from Pops' service proving his heroism. Emotions peaked, anger at the system that discarded vets, hope in the mounting evidence. But then, a bombshell department emails leaked showing cover-up attempts. Would they bury it or let justice breathe? By 2022, the case wrapped in a New Orleans courtroom, echoes of the past finally silenced. Sykes and Voss faced trial, body cam footage played for a jury that gasped at the blows. Guilty on assault charges, they were fired, pension stripped, serving short stints in prison. Pops, now 66, watched from the gallery, legs scarred but spirit unbroken. Justice served, the judge intoned, but was it? The system criticized, why only after viral outrage? Pops received a settlement, enough to retire quietly, but his trumpet gathered dust, hands too shaky from nerve damage. He mentored young musicians instead, sharing stories of resilience. Etta stood by, their family closer, yet the scar lingered, a reminder of buried biases in blue. The events closed that year, leaving lessons for a nation grappling with fairness. In the end, Pops found peace in small victories, his legacy in notes others played. Back in the summer of 2019, long before the world changed again, Otis, Pops, Lavo was still the kind of man you noticed even in the chaos of Bourbon Street. 63 years old, skin like polished walnut, silver streaking through tight curls under his worn fedora. His shoulders carried the weight of two wars, one in the rice paddies of Vietnam, the other every day just trying to stay upright in a city that kept trying to forget men like him. When he played, though, time bent. The trumpet would rise to his lips, Those scarred fingers finding the valves like old friends, and suddenly the drunk college kids, the bachelorette parties, the pickpockets, all of them paused. For a few bars, New Orleans remembered who she really was. Otis was born in 1956 in a narrow shotgun house on Desire Street, back when the 9th Ward still smelled like magnolias instead of mold. His mama played piano in church, his daddy hauled shrimp nets until the drink took him. By age 8, Otis already had a pawn shop cornet, blowing notes that made the neighbors lean out their windows. Music wasn't a hobby, it was oxygen. Then came 1973. The draft notice arrived like a death sentence wrapped in red, white, and blue. He shipped out at 19, landed in Da Nang with a rifle he barely knew how to clean, and a head full of Motown songs he sang to keep sane. The things he saw there never left. Screams that sounded like violins being tortured. The wet slap of helicopter blades. Friends disappearing into red mud. He came home in 75 with shrapnel scars on his left thigh, a Purple Heart he never wore, and nightmares that woke Ada every night for years. Ida Mae Lavo. Lord, that woman was steel wrapped in velvet. 5'2", skin the color of strong coffee with cream, eyes that could see through lies from across the room. They met in 76 at a second line parade on Claiborne Avenue. She was 20, he was 21, and still flinching at loud noises. 6 months later, they were married under a live oak in City Park. 2 boys followed Jamal in 78, Terrell in 81. Otis worked days at the shipyard, nights in clubs, Tipitinas, Snug Harbor, any stage that would have him. The paycheck never matched the talent, but the family ate. Until Katrina. August 2005. The levees broke. Water rose chest high in their Gentilly home. Otis stood on the roof with a trumpet case and a shotgun, watching everything they'd built float away. Ida clutched baby pictures in a Ziploc bag. The boys were already grown, scattered. FEMA trailers, Red Cross lines, insurance companies that laughed at their claims. Otis lost his gig calendar, his tools, most of his horns. One trumpet survived, his Selmer dented but playable. He carried it like a crucifix for the next decade. By 2019, the body hurt more than it used to. Arthritis in the fingers, shin splints that never healed right from NAM. A back that screamed every time he bent to pick up change. Pension checks barely covered the rent on a little double shotgun off Elysian Fields. But every Friday and Saturday, weather permitting, Pops walked the 9 blocks to Bourbon Street with his case and his hat set up near the corner of St. Peter under the neon glow of Pat O'Brien's. Played standards, SD, James Infirmary, Basin Street Blues, Do You Know What It Means to Miss New Orleans? Tourists tipped well when he hit the high notes. Locals nodded, drop fives, said play that thing, Pops. He never begged, never raised his voice, just played and watched. Watched the white cops eyeball black kids selling water bottles. Watched how fast they moved when a fight broke out between frat boys, but how slow they walked when an old black man got shoved. He'd seen it all before. Still, he told himself, keep your head down, play your horn, go home to Etta. That was the deal he'd made with life. Until that Saturday night in July. The tourist, later identified as Kyle R. Bannerman, 38, from suburban Dallas, had already been cut off at 3 bars. Hawaiian shirt soaked in hurricanes, face flushed the color of boiled crawfish. He staggered toward Pops right as the trumpet climbed into the final chorus of One, the Saints. At first it was just loud talking, then the slurs started. Play some real music, boy. This street ain't for y'all no more. Pops lowered the horn, looked the man dead in the eye. I been playing this street since before you was born, son. Move along? Bannerman laughed. Mean, wet laugh. Step closer. You threatening me, old nen. The word landed like a brick through a window. Pops felt it in his chest, same place the shrapnel hit in 74. Crowd froze. Phones came out. Pops spoke low. I asked you to leave. That's all. Bannerman shoved the trumpet case with his foot. Coins scattered across the bricks. Pops bent to gather them. Instinct. That's when Bannerman grabbed the brim of Pop's fedora and yanked. Pops straightened fast, pushed the man's hand away. Not hard. Just enough. Sirens were already coming. 2 NOPD units rolled up within 90 seconds. Officers Harlan Sykes and Derek Voss stepped out of the lead car. Both white, both big, both wearing the look men get when they've already decided who's guilty. Sykes walked straight to Pops. Hands where I can see 'em. Pops raised them slow. I'm the one got assaulted, officer. Sykes didn't even glance at Bannerman, who was now grinning, swaying, holding up his phone like a trophy. We got a call about a disturbance. You're coming with us? Voss already had cuffs out. Pops looked around. Phones still recording. Crowd murmuring. Y'all see this? He said loud enough for the mics. Y'all see who started it? Sykes leaned in close. Breath smelled like coffee and chew. Keep talking, old man. See where it gets you. Click. Cuffs on. Pops was marched to the cruiser while Bannerman high-fived a buddy and wandered off into the crowd, untouched. As the patrol car pulled away, Pops stared out the window at the blur of neon and faces. His trumpet case sat abandoned on the sidewalk, lid open, a few lonely dollars fluttering in the breeze. He didn't know it yet, but that was the last night he would ever play for tips on Bourbon Street. And the real pain, that was still waiting inside the station house. What would you have done if you saw an old veteran get cuffed while the drunk walked free? Drop a justice in the comments if you think the street should have protected Pops that night. Let me know. Have you ever watched something unfair go down and felt powerless? Why does a man who survived hell overseas snap on a street corner? For Pops Lavo, it wasn't just the slurs that night. It was a lifetime of swallowing poison, drop by drop, until the cup overflowed. Sitting in the back of that patrol car, hands cuffed so tight his fingers tingled, Pops stared at the cage divider, the world outside blurring into streaks of red and blue. His mind raced back, unbidden, to places he'd tried to bury. The humid stink of the cruiser reminded him of the jungle, sweat, fear, the metallic bite of gun oil. In Vietnam, he'd learned quick, keep your mouth shut, follow orders, or end up in a body bag. But back home, the rules were different. Or were they? That word, boy? It wasn't new, echoed from childhood Sundays when white folks crossed the street in the quarter, clutching purses. From army sergeants who called him worse while handing out latrine duty. From bosses at the shipyard post Katrina, who hired him last and fired him first when contracts dried up. You're lucky to have this, boy, they'd say smirking. Pops had always nodded, played along, for Etta, for the boys. Swallow the rage, turn it into music. Each note on the trumpet was a scream he couldn't let out. But lately, the pressure built like thunderheads over Lake Pontchartrain. Medical bills piling up, VA docs saying his knee pain was age-related, ignoring the shrapnel fragments still lodged there. Gentrification pushing rents sky high, turning his neighborhood into a playground for tourists like Bannerman. And the news, endless stories of black men pulled over, beaten, forgotten. Not me. Pops told himself every morning, staring at his Purple Heart in the drawer. I served, I earned respect. But did he? That night, as Bannerman's spit flecked his face, Pops felt the trigger pull. Internal thoughts swirled like a second line brass band gone mad. Why me? Always me. Flashes 1974. Pinned down in a rice paddy, white lieutenant ordering him forward while staying back. Go on, Lavo, scout it. He went, took the hit. Came home a hero on paper, invisible in life. Another flash, 2005, wading through floodwaters, carrying Etta on his back, watching white neighborhoods get help first. Systems broken, he muttered then. Now at 63, the body betrayed him. Aches that kept him up, dignity slipping away with each missed gig. He played Bourbon Street not just for tips, but to prove he still mattered. To drown out the voices saying he didn't. Officer Sykes, behind the wheel, had his own demons. A 15-year vet of an OPD, Harlan Sykes grew up in Metairie, white suburbia where those people were the problem. Joined the force after 9/11, badge as armor against a world he saw crumbling. But the job wore him down. Endless shifts, protests after Ferguson, body cams watching his every move. He hated them. Big brother bullshit, he'd grumble to Voss over beers. Voss, younger, followed Sykes' lead like a puppy. Both carried the weight of a department under fire, scandals piling up like Mardi Gras beads in the gutter. That night, the call came in disturbance on Bourbon. Probably another drunk, dispatch said, but seeing Pops, black, older, standing tall, despite the chaos, something clicked in Sykes. Trigger, the entitlement he imagined in Pop's steady gaze. These old-timers think they own the place, he thought, ignoring Bannerman's obvious stupor. Bias buried deep, dressed as instinct. Protect and serve? But who? For Bannerman, it was simpler. Liquid courage from too many hurricanes, buried resentments bubbling up. Back in Dallas, he ranted online about inner cities and welfare queens, never admitting the fear his factory job outsourced, wife leaving, life unraveling. Blame the others. That night, hearing jazz, black music in a black city, poked the sore spot. This is America, he slurred inwardly. My America. The shove. just pushing back against a world that felt stolen. Pops jostled in the cruiser, clenched his jaw. Heart hammered like a bass drum. This ain't right, he thought. I fought for this country. Flashback discharge day 1975. Stepping off the plane in San Francisco, protesters spitting, baby killer. No parade. No thanks. Just back to New Orleans, where Jim Crow lingered like humidity. He built a life anyway, family music. But now, cuffed like a criminal while the real offender walked. The rage ignited, slow burn turning to blaze. They'll listen at the station, he told himself. Explain it calm. The cruiser pulled into the precinct lot, gravel crunching under tires. Sykes yanked the door open. Out, Pops stepped slow, bad knee buckling. Voss grabbed his arm, rough. Inside, the bullpen hummed. Phones ringing, perps yelling, coffee burning on a hot plate. They marched Pops to a side room, door clicking shut. Body cams still rolling, Sykes and Voss both in frame. Faces hard. Empty your pockets, Sykes ordered. Pops complied, hands shaking. Wallet, keys, a few crumpled bills. Then Sykes leaned in. You think you're special, huh? Vietnam vet. We got a file on guys like you, always causing trouble. Pop's eyes widened. File? What file? Voss chuckled. Yeah, old man. We know all about you. A chill ran down Pop's spine. This wasn't random. They knew him. But how and why? The first blow came without warning. A baton to the thigh. Pain exploding like a mortar round. Back in that dimly lit interrogation room of the No PD precinct on Broad Street, the body cam footage from Officer Harlan Sykes captured every agonizing second, with both Sykes and his partner Derek Voss clearly visible in the frame. The air hung heavy with the scent of old sweat and cheap disinfectant, the fluorescent bulbs buzzing like angry hornets overhead. Pops Lavo sat bolted to the metal chair, his cuffed hands resting on the scarred table, heart thundering in his chest like a bass line gone wild. The first strike had already landed, a sharp crack of the baton against his thigh, sending shockwaves up his spine. He gasped, eyes watering, the pain blooming hot and fierce like stepping on a live wire in the flooded streets after Katrina. Why? Pops managed, voice hoarse, tasting copper on his tongue from biting his lip. I ain't resisted nothing. Sykes loomed closer, his broad frame filling the lens, baton twirling in his grip like a conductor's wand. Voss stood to the side, arms crossed, his younger face twisted in a smirk. Both men reflected in the one-way mirror behind them. You pushed a civilian, Sykes growled, breath hot and sour with stale coffee. That's assault. And you got mouthy on the street. Veterans like you think the rules don't apply. Pops shook his head, sweat beading on his forehead, dripping down his temples. The room felt smaller, walls closing in like the jungle canopy in Nam. He came at me first! Grabbed my hat, kicked my case. Y'all saw the crowd? Phones out. Check the videos. Voss laughed, a short bark that echoed off the concrete. He stepped forward, now fully in frame beside Sykes, grabbing Pops a shoulder to hold him steady. Videos. Old man, this is our house. What happens here stays here. His fingers dug in, vise, like pinching through Pop's thin shirt. Pops winced, the pressure igniting old war wounds. A phantom H from shrapnel that never fully healed. Sykes raised the baton again, eyes narrowing under the brim of his cap. You black vets come back thinking you're heroes, but you're just another problem on my beat. The word stung worse than the blow, slicing through decades of buried hurt. Pop's mind flash medals pinned in a drawer, forgotten, loans denied because of his zip code, gigs lost to younger, whiter players. Rage bubbled up, mixing with fear, his breath coming in short, ragged bursts. Please, Pop said, voice cracking for the first time. I got a family. It is waiting. Just let me call her. Sykes hesitated for a split second, baton hovering. Then, with a grunt, he swung low, thwack, connecting with Pop's shin. The impact reverberated through bone, a sickening crunch that made Pop's arch back, chair scraping against the floor. Pain exploded white, hot, stars bursting behind his eyelids. He cried out, a raw, guttural sound that filled the room, echoing like a muted trumpet wail. The scent of his own blood mixed with the metallic tang of fear sweat. Legs throbbing, he slumped forward, tears streaming unchecked. Stop. God, stop. Voss tightened his grip, leaning in. One more word, and it'll be your knees next. Both officers exchanged a glance, Sykes nodding slightly. The camera caught it all. Their faces, the baton gleaming under the lights, Pop's crumpled form. Sykes struck again, this time to the other thigh, the force jolting Pop sideways. Agony peaked, a crescendo of fire that drowned out everything. Internal screams, why me? For playing music? For surviving. The world narrowed to pain, each breath a battle. But Sykes wasn't done. Admit it, you started the fight. Baton poised for another. Pops, through gritted teeth, whispered, "No, I won't lie." Thwack. Another hit, lower calf this time. Pops howled, body convulsing, the chair rattling. Blood seeped through his pants, warm and sticky, pooling on the floor. The officer stepped back, breathing heavy, Voss wiping sweat from his brow. Sykes muttered, "That's enough for now. Lock him up." As they hauled Pops to his feet, legs buckling like wet cardboard, he collapsed against the table, dragged down the hall, each step a fresh hell, the body cam rolling on. But in that moment, as darkness crept in, Pops clung to one thought: someone would see this. Someone had to. The escalation didn't stop there, bruises blooming, spirit cracking. What horrors waited in the cell? And how deep did this betrayal go? Have you ever felt the burn of injustice so deep it changes you forever? Type "veteran strong" in the comments if you've got a story about standing up to the system. What's the worst thing you've seen cops get away with in your city? The immediate chaos after that brutal night in 2019 hit Otis. Pops. Lavo like a freight train barreling down the tracks, leaving wreckage in its wake that no amount of time could fully clear. As the cell door clanged shut behind him in the no PD precinct, Pops collapsed onto the cold concrete bench, legs screaming in protest, each throb a reminder of the Baton's fury. Blood soaked through his pants, sticky and warm, the metallic scent mingling with the stale urine and despair that permeated the holding tank. He curled up, breath shallow, mind reeling. Hours ticked by, maybe 3, maybe 5, in that windowless void, the only sounds distant shouts and the occasional slam of metal. No doctor came, no water. Just pain, wave after wave, crashing like Gulf waves during a storm. Etta got the call around 3 a.m., her phone buzzing on the nightstand like an angry hornet. "Mrs. Lavo, your husband's been detained." Bail set at 500. Her heart dropped, sleep vanishing in an instant. 60, 2 years old herself, with arthritis in her hips from years of waitressing at Café du Monde, she scrambled out of bed, fumbling for clothes in the dark. What happened? Is he okay? The voice on the line was flat, impersonal, disorderly conduct. "Come down if you want." She called Jamal first, their eldest, 39, a mechanic in Algiers. "Mum, what's wrong?" His voice thick with sleep turned sharp when she explained. Terrell, the younger at 36, a teacher in Gentilly, got the next call. By dawn, the family converged at the precinct, Etta's hands trembling as she counted out bills from their emergency jar. Savings meant for a new roof, now gone in a flash. When they finally released Pops around 7 a.m., he hobbled out on Voss's arm, face ashen, legs barely supporting his weight. Etta gasped, rushing forward. "Otis!" What did they do? He leaned into her, whispering, "Not here, baby." In the car, Jamal, driving white, knuckled, Pops broke down, tears silent at first, then sobs that shook his frame. "They beat me like a dog," he choked out. "For nothing?" Terrell in the back seat fumed, fists clenched. "We sue, Dad. This ain't right." At home, Etta helped him to the couch, peeling off bloodied socks to reveal swollen shins, purple bruises blooming like storm clouds, fractures evident even to untrained eyes. The trumpet case, left on Bourbon Street, picked clean by dawn, horn gone, a piece of his soul vanished. Doctors at University Medical Center confirmed the worst bilateral tibial fractures, nerve damage in both legs, possible permanent limp. At your age, recovery's tough, the ER doc said, avoiding Pop's eyes. Prescriptions for painkillers he couldn't afford, referrals to PT that meant copays stacking up. Pop stared at the ceiling that night, Etta's hand in his, the silence heavy, sleep. Forget it. Flashbacks merged. Batons with Viet Cong sticks, Sykes' sneer with a lieutenant's from 74. "I served," he muttered to the dark, "for this." The family fractured under the strain. Jamal took extra shifts to cover bills. Anger simmering, Terrell rallied neighbors, starting a whisper campaign. Community rippled. Word spread through jazz clubs, church groups, barbershops. Pops got jumped by the boys in blue, folks said, shaking heads. Bourbon Street felt off, key without him, tourists asking, "Where's the old trumpeter?" Meanwhile, Kyle Bannerman sobered up in his hotel room, scrolling his phone. The video he'd shot, Pops cuffed, him laughing in the background, uploaded to Facebook with a caption, "Crazy night in no law! Don't mess with Texans." Likes poured in from buddies back home, comments egging on, serves him right. But cracks appeared, strangers messaged, "That's assault, dude." He shrugged it off, flying home to Dallas, oblivious to the storm brewing. For Sykes and Voss, business as usual, they filed reports. Subject resisted, force necessary. Body cam submitted, but who would check? Department whispers, another complaint? Bury it. Yet the viral seed was planted, Bannerman's clip shared, reposted, gaining traction in black Twitter circles. Outrage simmered, veteran beaten for busking, for justice for Pops. Pop's world shrank to the living room, legs elevated, trumpet untouched in the corner. Dignity stripped, hope flickering. Ida watched him withdraw, the man who once danced at second, lines now flinching at sirens. How do we fight this? She whispered one night. Pops squeezed her hand. We tell the truth. But as days blurred into weeks, legs healing slow, the real question burned, would anyone listen? Or was this just another forgotten verse in the blues of injustice? The investigation into what happened to Otis, Pops, Lavo that fateful night in 2019 dragged on like a slow dirge through the sweltering New Orleans summer, but when the truth started spilling out, they hit harder than any baton blow. It began quietly, almost reluctantly, with a viral spark from Kyle Bannerman's own smartphone video, the one where Pops was cuffed and hauled away while Bannerman laughed in the background. Shared first on Facebook, it bounced to Twitter, then Instagram, racking up views in the thousands by week's end. Hashtags like 5Justice for Pops and Hire Veteran Beaten trended locally, pulling in activists from the NAACP and veteran groups like the American Legion. This ain't just another stop, one commenter wrote. This is war on our elders. Pops, still bedridden with legs in braces, watched the clip on Jamal's phone, his face hardening. They think they can bury this, he muttered, anger reigniting the fire in his eyes that Vietnam couldn't extinguish. Nopi's Internal Affairs Division got involved by mid-August, pressured by mounting calls from city council members and a scathing editorial in the Times. Picayune headlined, Harrow humiliated, when protectors become predators. Detectives pulled the body cam footage from Sykes and Voss, crisp, undeniable, showing both officers in frame as the batons swung. Pops' pleas echoing tinny through the speakers. Excessive force doesn't begin to cover it. Lead investigator Maria Gonzalez whispered to her partner, a Latina cop who'd seen her share of department dirt. They interviewed Pops first in his living room, Etta hovering with coffee and quiet fury. Tell us everything, Gonzalez urged. Pops did, voice steady at first, then breaking as he recounted the slurs, the strikes, the betrayal. I fought for freedom, he said, tears welling. But in that room, felt like enemy territory. Flashbacks hit him mid-sentence jungle ambushes blending with precinct shadows, the crack of gunfire with baton thuds. Emotions raw, he clenched fists, knuckles whitening. Why me? 'Cause I'm black. 'Cause I'm old. Evidence mounted like storm debris after a flood. Phone records showed Bannerman had called 911 himself, slurring about, or an aggressive panhandler, never mentioning his own provocations. Witness statements from the Bourbon Street crowd poured in, tourists and locals alike describing Bannerman's aggression, Popsish restraint. One bar owner, a grizzled vet named Leroy Thibodeaux, handed over CCTV from his stoop, clear shots of Bannerman shoving the case, yanking the hat. That old man's a legend, Thibodeaux growled. Cops ignored the real trouble. Then came the twist, a leaked memo from Sykes' personnel file. Prior complaints. 3 excessive force allegations in black neighborhoods, all dismissed. One from 2017 involved another veteran, a traffic stop gone wrong. Pattern, Gonzalez noted, her gut twisting. Voss, a rookie with a clean sheet, but emails revealed he'd covered for Sykes before, trading favors in a department rife with cliques. The real bombshell dropped in September, an anonymous tip from inside No PD. A flash drive mailed to the DA's office contained deleted body cam backups, extended footage showing Sykes and Voss joking post, beating. Old timer won't play again? Sykes chuckled on tape, taught him respect. Both men froze when confronted in interrogation, faces paling under the same fluorescent lights they'd used on Pops. Sykes lawyered up quick, but Voss cracked under pressure. It was Harlan's idea, he confessed, voice shaking. He said vets like him are trouble, always claiming special treatment. Revelations deepened the wound Sykes' own service record, a brief stint in Iraq, twisted into resentment toward NAM guys who got parades we didn't. Bias exposed, raw and ugly, a system protecting its own while discarding those it swore to serve. Community outrage boiled over. Protests swelled outside the precinct, signs waving, badge of honor or badge of shame. Ida spoke at a rally, voice amplified, trembling with controlled rage. My husband bled for this country twice, once overseas, once here. When will it end? Pops, wheeled to the front, felt a mix of hope and despair. Emotions peak at anger at the cover-up, grief for lost mobility, a flicker of vindication. His sons stood guard, Jamal's eyes fierce. "This exposes the rot," he said. But twists kept coming. Bannerman, back in Dallas, faced his own scrutiny when old social media posts surfaced racist memes, rants about urban decay. He lawyered up to, claiming alcohol fueled mistake. Yet the evidence tied it all: a drunk bigot, biased cops, a veteran caught in the crossfire. By late 2019, charges loomed. Assault for Sykes and Voss, hate crime enhancements floated. Pop's therapy sessions dragged, nerves misfiring, hands too unsteady for the trumpet. "Will I ever play again?" he asked the doc, voice hollow. The answer hung unspoken. Hope mingled with heartbreak, the investigation revealing not just crimes, but a fractured system that chewed up black lives like gumbo scraps. Would justice prevail or fade like a forgotten melody? Drop, system failed. In the comments, if you've lost faith in the badge after stories like this, share your own tale of fighting back. Have you ever exposed corruption in your town? What would you do if it was your dad in those cuffs? By early 2022, the courtroom in the Orleans Parish Criminal District Court hummed with a tension that felt like the build-up to a jazz solo's climax, the kind where every note hangs on the edge of resolution. Otis pops. Lavo sat in the gallery, his wheelchair a stark reminder of that night in 2019. Legs still aching on bad days, but his chin held high under the fedora Etta had pressed that morning. The trial of officers Harlan Sykes and Derek Voss had dragged through 2021, motions and delays testing the family's patience like a slow blues riff. But now, with the body cam footage replayed for the jury, Sykes and Voss both in frame, baton swinging, Pop's cries piercing the silence, the verdict loomed. The DA, a sharp-eyed woman named Alicia Rivera, had built an airtight case: assault, battery, civil rights violations. This wasn't policing, she thundered in closings. This was prejudice with a badge. Sykes took the stand first, face gaunt, uniform traded for a cheap suit. He claimed self-defense, said Pops, lunged, but the video shredded his lies. Cross-examined, he cracked, admitting resentment toward entitled vets, like Pops. Words that drew gasps from the diverse jury. Voss, the weaker link, had already pled guilty to lesser charges, turning state's evidence. Harlan led it. He testified, voice quivering. He said black guys like him always play the race card. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Judge Harlan Thibodeaux, ironically no relation to the bar owner, banging his gavel. Revelations from the investigation sealed it: the leaked emails, the pattern of complaints, the department's sluggish response. Systemic failure, Rivera argued. OPD protected predators while a veteran suffered. The jury deliberated 3 days, long enough to make Etta pace their living room, Jamal Chain smoking on the porch, Terrell refreshing news apps. When the foreman stood, the room held its breath. Guilty on all counts, cheers mixed with sobs. Sykes got 5 years, Voss 3. Both fired, pensions revoked, barred from law enforcement. Pops exhaled a weight lifting, but not fully. Outside, media swarmed. Justice for Pops? Headlines blared. A settlement followed, $750,000 from the city, enough to pay bills, buy accessible van, fund therapy. But the trumpet, hands too shaky from nerve damage, lips unable to buzz like before. Music's gone, he confided to Etta one night, staring at the Selmer gathering dust. She squeezed his hand. "No, baby, it's in you still." Long term, the case rippled like stones in the Mississippi. No PD reformed, mandatory bias training, bodycam audits, a civilian review board strengthened. Protests faded, but awareness lingered, stories shared in barbershops, veterans' halls, online forums. Pops became a reluctant symbol, speaking at events, his voice gravelly but firm. The system's rigged against folks like me, black, old, served and forgotten. It chews you up, spits you out. But we fight back. Criticism stung. Why did it take viral video for action? Why short sentences for shattering a life? America promises liberty, Pop said in one interview, but for some, it's just words. Catharsis came slow, family bonds tighter, community support wrapping like a warm second line. Jamal started a foundation for veteran musicians. Terrell taught history with Pop's story as a lesson. Ida, she danced with him again, slow, in their kitchen to record spinning old tunes. By mid-2022, the case closed, appeals denied, lives forever altered. Pops, at 66, found peace in mentoring young horn players at a 9th Ward Center, passing on licks and life lessons. Play through the pain, he'd say, eyes distant. His legacy, not the beats, but the beat down he rose from. Yet questions lingered: how many more Pops out there, silenced by the system? The events of that night in New Orleans faded into history, but the echoes, they played on, a haunting melody reminding us justice is never fully served. It's fought for, note by note. What do you think? Did the system really change or just slap a band-aid on? Type reform now in the comments if you've seen real progress in your city since cases like this. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories exposing the truth behind the badge. Don't miss the next dispatch!